The story opens with Annie preparing breakfast for her two daughters, before speaking with her husband, Peter. He informs her that his son, Gustav, will soon be moving in with them. Annie welcomes the idea and is ready to make him feel at home. Away from family life, she works as a successful attorney and is currently helping a young woman who was abandoned after becoming pregnant. When Gustav finally arrives, the girls happily try to bond with their new older brother, but he remains distant and reserved. A few days later, Annie accidentally walks into his room at an awkward moment and attempts to start a conversation, yet Gustav shows little interest in interacting with her. Meanwhile, Annie encourages her client not to give up on her legal battle, despite her fears. At home, tension grows between Peter and Gustav as they repeatedly clash over independence and control. Around the same time, Annie suffers a major setback when she loses an important court case, leaving her frustrated and discouraged. Things become even more stressful when their house is burglarized. While sorting through laundry afterward, Annie discovers an item connected to Gustav and begins to suspect he may know more about the theft than he admits. Instead of exposing him, she gives him a chance to prove himself and become a better member of the household. Gradually, Gustav starts spending more time with the family, especially Annie and her daughters. As the weeks pass, their interactions become increasingly comfortable. During family outings, late-night conversations, and quiet moments together, an unusual connection begins to form between them. At a gathering hosted by Peter, Annie feels completely detached from everyone around her. Seeking an escape from the dull atmosphere, she leaves with Gustav and heads to a nearby bar. While talking over drinks, their conversation becomes more personal, and Annie's questions hint that her feelings toward Gustav may be changing in ways she never expected. Later, Gustav asks Annie about her marriage. She claims everything is normal between her and Peter, and changes the subject when it becomes uncomfortable. Soon after, Gustav leaves to meet his girlfriend. That evening, Annie returns home after drinking too much, and Peter criticizes her for walking out of the gathering and leaving him behind. The next day, while everyone is playing together, Annie and Gustav briefly end up alone. A simple moment between them leaves Annie unable to stop thinking about him. As time passes, they spend more time talking in private and develop a stronger bond. Wanting to support him, Annie purchases a computer to help with his studies. Peter is bothered by the decision, but eventually accepts it after Annie reassures him. Gustav gradually becomes closer to the family and especially the younger children. However, Annie feels increasingly dissatisfied with her own life. Even when trying to reconnect with Peter, she senses that something important is missing. Meanwhile, Annie takes on another difficult case, involving a young woman living in fear of violence at home. She encourages her to seek help, but the girl refuses. At the same time, Annie and Gustav continue growing emotionally attached, though they become careful whenever Peter is around. Months later, during one of the daughters' birthday celebrations, Annie's sister notices suspicious behavior between them. Shocked by what she sees, she confronts Annie, forcing her to face the consequences of her choices. Realizing how serious the situation has become, Annie decides to distance herself from Gustav. Gustav reacts badly to her sudden rejection and causes a scene during the party, embarrassing Peter in front of the guests. Afterward, Annie tells Peter that living under the same roof with Gustav is no longer possible and insists that something must change. Soon afterward, Peter takes Gustav away for a short trip. During their absence, Annie tries to focus on her daughters and repair her damaged relationship with her sister, but things remain tense. Distracted by everything happening in her life, Annie is later involved in a traffic accident, though she escapes major injury. When Peter and Gustav return, Annie becomes anxious. That night, while the family is having dinner together, Peter reveals a startling confession. During their time away, Gustav finally opened up and admitted that he had developed an inappropriate relationship with Annie. Without hesitation, Annie rejects the accusation and insists that Gustav is fabricating the entire story. Peter, overwhelmed and uncertain, admits that he can no longer tell who is being honest. Struggling to process everything, he questions why Gustav would make such a serious claim if there were no truth behind it. Sensing that the situation is slipping out of her control, Annie shifts the blame onto Gustav. She brings up the earlier burglary and suggests that he was responsible, claiming she remained silent about her suspicions to avoid creating more conflict. She then portrays herself as deeply hurt and announces that living under the same roof is no longer possible. Trying to force a decision, Annie says she will leave and only return once new arrangements have been made. Peter, desperate to keep things from completely falling apart, comforts her and attempts to calm the chaos surrounding the family. The following day, he gathers both Annie and Gustav for an honest conversation. During the discussion, Gustav stands by his version of events and refuses to withdraw anything he previously said. His words immediately spark Peter's anger. Feeling betrayed, Peter accuses him of destroying the peace of their household and bringing endless trouble into their lives. While Peter lashes out, Annie continues acting as though she has done nothing wrong. She approaches Gustav as if she wants to ease the tension, but he reacts with open hostility before walking out of the room. Not long afterward, he collects his belongings and leaves the house. Peter personally takes him back to where his mother lives. Later, Peter sits alone, burdened by guilt and regret. Deep inside, he wonders whether he failed his son at a time when support was needed most. Around then, a young woman Annie had previously helped arrives with flowers to thank her for changing her life. The gesture briefly lifts Annie's mood and provides a rare moment of relief. The calm is short-lived. The next morning, Annie arrives at her workplace and is surprised to find Gustav waiting for her. Keeping her composure, she escorts him into a private office away from everyone else. Once they are alone, Gustav makes his position clear. He demands that Annie reveal the truth to Peter, herself arguing that the lies have already cost him his relationship with his father and that he refuses to carry the burden alone any longer. Gustav warns Annie that if she refuses to tell the truth, he may take the matter to the authorities. He reminds her that he was still underage and that exposing everything could ruin her career and reputation. Annie, however, remains completely calm and tells him that, without evidence, nobody will believe his accusations. For the first time, Gustav realizes how powerless he has become. Annie advises him to stop fighting, apologize to Peter, and try to rebuild his relationship with his father. But Gustav refuses to accept her advice. Later that night, he returns to the family home and demands to speak with her. Their confrontation quickly becomes emotional, and after a tense exchange, Gustav leaves feeling rejected and defeated. Sometime later, Peter receives a desperate call from Gustav's mother, who reveals he has gone missing. Worried for his son's safety, Peter immediately joins the search. Days later, tragic news arrives. Gustav has been found dead, and investigators conclude that a mixture of drugs and alcohol caused his death. Peter is devastated and blames himself for pushing his son away when he needed support the most. Annie is also consumed by guilt, knowing that her choices played a role in the events that unfolded. As the months pass, Annie and Peter grow further apart, living more like strangers than a married couple. In the end, the film delivers a clear message. One bad decision can lead to a chain of consequences that cannot always be reversed, and some mistakes leave 6 permanent scars behind.